Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the AI 2030 show. My name is Xiaochen Zhang, the CEO of FinTech for Good, and also the host of this show. Today, I have a guest and who knows a lot about responsible AI, and his name is Scott. And before we start the discussion, I'd like to just have Scott to introduce yourself.
Hi, yes, I'm Dr. Scott Cambo. In general, I'd say I'm a responsible AI advocate and expert, but I work on pretty much anything that helps normalize responsible AI practices. So, yeah, and that's across the AI research and development community. I've done everything from kind of helping clients understand the risk profile of their AI systems to helping them build policies and practices around responsible AI, to helping them design AI systems with human-centered approach, with more of a human-centered approach. So, primarily right now, I work with the Responsible AI Collaborative on something called the AI Incident Database. It's kind of a central repository of reports on incidents where AI has caused harm.
Awesome. So, it's obvious that your work extensively is, around a responsible AI. What motivated you to focus on responsible AI, and why do you think it is a critical area of interest?
Yeah. So I have kind of an eclectic background. I'd say I'm trained in human-computer interaction research as much as I am in AI research. And as I was kind of, developing my education as an undergraduate and as a grad student, I noticed there was like kind of a disconnect in how we would think about the safe implementation and design of systems between the human-computer interaction community and the AI research and development community. And part of it was really just that, like, we're both trying to achieve two different things, right? Like, as an AI researcher, you're really trying to develop an algorithm that can learn a task really well and measurably well. And in human-computer interaction research, we're trying to understand, like, how does a certain system impact a user? What is that experience like? What are the potential downstream effects after that system's been in place for a long time? So it really gave me this kind of longitudinal understanding of how to think about a system's impact on the world. And so in a way, as I kind of like went through grad school and, I was working with people in both areas, it just became like a natural way of thinking about it. Like, oh, okay, like, we've kind of progressed our work in the research area from just focusing on AI algorithms to thinking about the broader system. As a broader system, great, we have frameworks for thinking about these broader systems in the human-computer interaction research community. I'll just say HCI. I'm sorry, I'm so used to just saying HCI and then nobody knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, I think once we got to that place where, I'm now able to kind of take that lens and apply it to more broader AI systems, it was just really a natural fit. But one of the things that just kept coming up over and over again were just kind of the dangers of not having that human-centered perspective on AI development. And that's what really got me, I think at the time when I was getting into this, there wasn't really this term responsible AI. I think we were all kind of struggling, like, oh, are we going to call this human-centered machine learning, which was, that was the name of one workshop I've been to. Are we going to call this, like, I've heard user-centered data science. I've heard all sorts of terms in this space that were all, they all were bringing together different ideas from these different areas of technology research and development. And what I like about responsible AI as kind of a term and a community, though, is like we're really kind of getting at the crux of the issue now. We're really kind of saying, like, look, we all believe in the utility of AI systems when they're implemented well, and when we've when we've taken some personal responsibility for the impacts that they have, positive and negative. So I think one of the things that gets me so excited about this is it's just bringing together all of my previous experiences into this one thing and into this one place where I feel like I can really help.
Yeah, and as you mentioned that responsible AI is still evolving, even from the concept as you see that many people involved try to define what it is, and finally land into this term, and even now, and it's still space to continue to evolve, and just for our audience to try to help our audience to understand the responsible AI. If AI is not responsibly developed and used, what are some of the consequences that you have observed in the past?
Yeah, well, I think this is what gets really interesting about AI harms as opposed to harms from other technologies. So like, let's take, for example, like an airplane, right? When an airplane causes harm, it's usually because it crashed. And that's like a very specific incident that is very easily observed. And the harm of that incident is extremely obvious, right? Like usually there's, we don't tend to overlook physical harm. Alternatively, with AI systems, harm can unfold over a long period of time. So if we're talking about a system that is helping make loan approval decisions, right? Like when there's bias in that system, we have harm caused because some people are getting a very unfair outcome. But to measure that unfair outcome, we need to look at how loan approval decisions were made by that system over, a fairly long period of time, or at least with a lot of different users and a lot of different user profiles to kind of understand the nature of that bias. And that is a thing that to monitor that is a much more complicated process, or at least a newer process that I think all of us are still trying to understand what that should look like kind of procedurally in our institutions. Even if I feel like we've got a pretty good grasp at this point on many of the techniques we need, but like what that looks like within an organization, within an institution, we're still in a phase of trying to figure that out. And I think that can be scary for some organizations, but I think it's also exciting for a lot of the people at those organizations to see change like that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you brought a very important dimension into this. That's the time dimension, right? And where that's
Yeah.
for other physical harm, you can see it right away. But for AI, related harm, it takes time. But in the sense that how can we avoid the time spent to discover or uncover that? Because to just think about the loan process, right? And where that's how many people who will be declined unfairly before you as the system operator understand that there is a harm. So, but after if that's a time period, just it becoming long, how many people will be impacted by that? That we are talking about some people cannot have a home, someone have to default, and someone have to lose their business and all that. And that time dimension is so important. And have you observed that their efforts, toolings help organizations and regulators to really reducing the time spent to uncover the harm of an AI system?
Yeah, I honestly so in this past like year or two, I've done a lot of responsible AI consulting and algorithm auditing, especially around New York City local law 144. And one of the things that I always recommend is that if you want to address these harms as timely as possible, get started now. So, get started as early in the development process as you can. because responsible AI just looks very different at every part of the process. So I have worked with teams where we started out assessing their currently implemented systems, and we ended up assessing everything that they were about to pitch to their executive team. Like it was really great to start getting them thinking about it at the planning phase. And I think that this is where like systems like we're developing with the AI incident database can be really helpful. So if you're thinking about developing a system, like let's say you've got an idea for a new generative AI application, you can go into the AI incident database and you can see where systems like yours may have caused harm in the past. And it can start get you thinking about what does my monitoring plan need to be like? What do I need to think about in the development process? Where should my data come from in order to build this responsibly and to deploy it with the most deploy it in a situation where you can be more confident that harm will be extremely minimized, and that if it happens and when it happens, you can catch it right away and address it. So another thing we talk about a lot in responsible AI is giving your users some kind of ability for recourse. So a lot of systems are just designed to be automated. So there's not really much, there's really much opportunity for a user to express like, hey, like, I understand that I got this, whether it's a loan decision or I got a decision about hiring. One, that they know that AI was in that system, which is actually a big part of New York City local law 144. They have to know that AI was used in the hiring process. And two, that they have some abilities to some specific mechanism for going back to that company and saying like, hey, I think that this was unfair. Like, what can we do to make this right? And when I say make this right, I don't just mean like, the user gets a discount on their next, on their next purchase or whatever. I mean like, that they get the feedback they need in order to address the model and their system as quickly as possible. So yeah. I think longitudinal, avoiding those like kind of long-term harms, like get a good monitoring system going as quickly as possible. Make sure your users know the AI is in the system, and make sure you give them an opportunity for feedback.
Yeah, I think you're introducing, some very interesting potential concept. One is the finality of the decision, right? And if you interact with like a human, and then naturally, potentially, this decision may be final, right? And but in this sense, because the human is there, can listen to you, you can give direct feedback. But now, yeah, AI is all through automation. That's when you design an AI system, can you just claim that that AI-driven decision to be final or not, right? And if if I understand correctly, your suggestion is that if possible, not to offer that alternative where that's the AI-driven decision might not be final, and provide opportunity for individuals or customers or whoever are impacted by the AI system, to just bring that feedback to the decision maker organization, and see that using that to just guide for the final decision. So then you basically uncover for the AI-driven decision making process, make it a little bit more complex to reflecting what is the real decision making process should be, right?
Totally. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I think that I always love the framing that when we build an AI system and we implement it, we're really building a new process. And some of that process is automated, and that's great. But some of that process still needs to be human work. And in developing that process, like, let's make that dynamic between human and machine as smart as possible. So, make it easy for all human stakeholders in that system to quickly identify mistakes and make it right.
Yeah, and then again, when you just talk about the process, basically, again hear from what you said, probably there are two very different processes. One process is, you already have an AI system, and then AI system, make mistake, and how can you correct that, right? And the second piece is that, how can you start from beginning, design your AI to be responsibly. And so, just now we talked a little bit about the correction piece. Now that, can you help us to understand if any company or any organization want to develop an AI system responsibly, how can they think about it? What are the core pillars? What are core questions that they need to just follow, in the sense that their AI, from beginning, the intent is make the, responsible, what are tools, what are framework they should follow?
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of the NIST Responsible AI framework, RMF. I just came from a workshop this week, earlier this week, run by the Center for Advancing Safety and Machine Intelligence, or CASME, in which we got to interact with a lot of the people who developed the NIST standard, or the NIST RMF framework. And we also got to, provide some feedback. And what I like about it is, like, they plan for this framework to be quite iterative. So what many notice right now, when you go to use the framework, it'll feel fairly high level. And that's kind of a good thing, right? Like, there's so many different ways to apply AI, and so many people that are just kind of like getting into this space, that high level framing that the framework currently gives you is actually really useful, even though it's not giving you necessarily concrete actions, but it is helping you understand, what should I be thinking about? What should I be planning? And like, how do we even get started with this? The NIST RMF playbook takes that kind of like very generalized framework and starts giving concrete examples. I think that this is something, as that kind of like the ecosystem around that framework starts kind of building out, we'll see more of this sort of like, people should be able to go in, use the RMF framework to kind of just get the lay of the land. What should I be caring about here? Where does my system or my business or my organization fall within what's being discussed in this framework? And then from there, oh, okay, I see. I'm working on I'm working on document summarization, or I'm working on an automated vehicle tool or something like that. Giving them the specific things that they should think about from there. I think the framework is doing really well. I also I've really appreciated how, in the development of this framework, they've been quite inclusive, like epistemologically, across like a whole lot of different disciplines, getting those perspectives on both, how we measure AI impact qualitatively and quantitatively. So looking at social impact from a social sciences perspective, and not necessarily making that the sole responsibility of, say, an IT department, which just doesn't have that kind of training. I also just think that, like, responsible AI is a team sport, right? You can't just task one single group or department within your organization to implement the whole thing. You need buy-in from everybody. Everybody needs to have the same kind of common language to talk about it. This is actually a thing that a lot of my work with clients has kind of had as a side effect. Just getting people into the same room, talking about the same AI systems together, you realize, like, oh, okay, that the data science team refers to the exact same model with a different word than the marketing team, which is also a different word than the executive team. That's going to make it really hard to start implementing any kind of like serious responsible AI processes. So just getting everybody to use the same language, and especially around like thinking about, what, especially in the context of responsible AI, I think is a huge step forward for any organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you mentioned not one single department should be taking over the whole responsibility. And that's I think is so true because just when you look at the education, when you look at the professional background, responsible AI is super interdisciplinary. You need people who have be able to understand the code. You also need people who have a strong understanding of ethics, legal, and all that.
Hmm.
That's one type of profession will not be able to just handle the whole responsible AI related challenge. So with that, another question is, as the AI field evolves, what new roles or job titles do you anticipate emerging to ensure the responsible development use of AI?
Yeah, so I think algorithm auditors are going to be a big new role in this area. I'm really excited for yeah. I I have recently learned that there's gonna be a new large professional society around algorithm auditors. I'm really excited about, but I hesitate to say exactly just because like I think it's going to be announced like this weekend or next week. So I don't want to take anyone's steam, but I will definitely be sharing about it on LinkedIn. I'm very excited about it. But algorithm auditing, I think, has already shown to be a a profession that a lot of people are interested in. It's already shown to be effective in helping organizations like better understand the everything from like the legal risk profile of the systems that they're using to whether or not the systems they're developing even align with their own values. So I think that like just giving people the language to talk about am I okay with what this system is doing? Like, is it operationalizing, individual fairness or group fairness? Is it like giving them the tools to speak about the different facets of their of how they're trying to develop their AI systems responsibly? I think is really important, and that's a job that algorithm auditors can do, can be trained to do, and I hope they will. But right now, there's just not a whole lot of laws that are requiring that systems get audited. New York City Local Law 144 is one of them, but it's very localized. It's also very imperfect. But I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that. We're hoping to see some support from the White House in making that a reality. And I think once we do, the AI auditor will be a significant profession that we'll all see on LinkedIn. And I'm
Awesome.
excited about it.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. I think whoever, have that expertise and, I think with this announcement, then you can just really get prepared that, when the industry started adopting this and this becoming very exciting new opportunities. And I know
Yeah.
that there's, you need to jump to the next meeting. So really appreciate this conversation and I learned a lot. And I would definitely, invite you back because this is just, I feel that we just, uncovered the surface of, all the knowledge you have on this topic. And I thank you for your time. And hopefully that's my audience just learned as much as I did. And again, thank you very much. And that's the continued conversation very soon. And see you at the Chicago AI conference next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. You have a great day.
Thanks, you too.